A lot of people get caught up in having this uber successful personal identity. And on the outside, everything looks cool, but on the inside, they're in a lot of pain.
So Paul, growing up, you were a quarterback from a young age, played it in college, obviously played in the NFL for 8 years. Do you think being a quarterback was a huge part of your personal identity?
It was my identity, you know, because it was such a big part of my life, and everyone reminded me of it every time they saw me. Hey, great game, and yeah, good job on the team, and that's what everyone wanted to talk about. And so it became my persona, and so much so that you begin to own that.
Yeah, there's almost even parodies of it sometimes on comedy shows, right? Hi, my name is Paul McDonald, quarterback, which obviously you never did, but that's kind of what it almost becomes, is that's who people know you as, and then you easily can slide into that sort of identity as your entire identity, which obviously is not a good thing. When you finished football and had to go out and work in the corporate world, was it a difficult transition for you?
It was a big challenge.
Yeah.
It was a big challenge for me, but you know, all athletes really, because think about this, you're playing a game and I got to play and get paid for it. Right. And then all of a sudden you're no longer playing a game. And the fact that you got to play a game really takes you back to your childhood. Because that's when it was so cool. Yeah. You get to play with your friends, you're just in the street, having fun, having a blast with your buddies and all of that. And then that was gone. Right. That was gone. There was no hearkening back to the early days of your youth.
And I would also add, you're in a stadium and there's 75,000 people cheering for you. I'm guessing on your first day of work, there was no marching band.
No.
Or was there? Did they have cheerleaders and marching band waiting for you at
They did not.
Yeah, no.
No band, no cheerleaders, no media that want to know.
Tell the story, actually. What did it even, like, they were like, yeah, here's a phone. Or like, how did that go?
This major bank that I worked for, my first job out of football, it was a great job in private banking. And I walked through the front door. My boss actually was in San Francisco, and I was working downtown Los Angeles. And I walked in the front door, and there was no receptionist for whatever reason, so I had to find somebody, and I had to tell them who I was. And this individual said, oh, okay, here, follow me. Found the first empty desk with a phone on it, and said, oh, this will do for you. Like, wow, man.
You're like, but I'm Paul McDonald, quarterback.
Don't you get it?
Right.
I mean, you're not in Kansas anymore, right?
Yeah.
So that was a major transition, and then you're learning new language, you're learning how to operate, you're learning culture. You know, this is way back when. You know, when my first memo I wrote, I had all these grammatical errors. My boss's boss pointed out, and everything was new.
Yeah, yeah. And I would imagine for not just you, but for athletes in general, the transition from being an athlete to getting a job in the corporate world, or the real world, as some people like to call it, is a hard thing.
It's one of the most challenging things, I think, and some people relate it, although they're risking their life, is from the military when they reintegrate into society. Right. Same kind of thing, because it's so different. Right. And that's why you said it, back into the real world. I mean, when you're a professional athlete, you are not in the real world. I mean, there's only a handful of people that are actually playing. In football, there's 45 guys, 50 guys on each team, and you've got 30 teams. You've got 1,500 people that are playing in the country.
And most of us, because of the small numbers, don't get that opportunity to play on a big field of being a professional athlete. But this is a problem for other people as well, because you could say, I'm a lawyer, or I'm a doctor, or whatever. So the idea of personal identity isn't just something that athletes struggle with. It's anybody who has sort of a thing that maybe they've worked for and that they can become. Talk about the dangers of that. Talk about the dangers of being only known as a doctor or a lawyer or whatever.
Yeah, because that could end. Right. If your whole identity is wrapped up, that's why the athletes have such a difficult time. And they only play for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 8-year career. I got to play 8 years. That's like a massive career in the NFL. The average career is a little over 3 years. Yeah. So if everything rests in that identity, and then it's gone, then who are you?
Yeah, no doubt.
Right?
Yeah.
And that's why people have a very difficult time of letting go.
Yeah. You know, and taking it to a younger group, because, you know, my kids are going through it because they're in high school and they're going to start thinking about what colleges they want to go to. And, you know, you develop this idea of the dream school or the dream schools. And now you get wrapped up into this identity of I'm a Ivy League student, or I'm a UC California student, or whatever that identity might be. And if you don't get accepted, then what? So it's something that, you know, you really have to consider and not just wrap yourself all up into this idea of this is the only person I am, a great student who's going to go to this college.
Yeah, because that's a recipe for getting let down. It's good to dream. We all need to dream. And that's something that I think as adults we forget to do.
Right.
With kids, dream all the time.
Yeah.
And then as you grow up, some of those things don't come through and you think, hey, this doesn't work. I'm no longer allowed to dream. I just got to live an ordinary life. You don't need to live an ordinary life. So dream about the school you want to go to, but don't be attached to it. In other words, you're way more important than the school you go to.
100%.
As far as who you are.
Yeah.
And what you're all about. But when you talk to people all the time and when you meet them on the street and you ask, hey, how you doing? Generally, most people refer to how's the business going or how's whatever your career is going, because that's where you spend a great deal of time. They don't talk about, you know, how's the family or how you doing personally or, you know, that's too personal. Everyone keeps that right here.
Right. How are your grades if you talk to a kid, or how, you know, like you said, you know, how's the business going? Yeah. And it's funny, this is really random, but like there was even a movie in the 80s, The Breakfast Club, where they brought all these different identities together, and then when these kids got to know each other, they realized they were far more than the jock, you know, the loser, or whatever the identity might be. And I think especially kids struggle with that. You get to be known as the kid on the campus who's the jock or the cheerleader or the really good student. And I think it's really important for young people especially to start to learn that they are more than that identity, and that there's far more in life for them than, you know, what they are. It's who they are.
Yeah, and you wear that mask, right? It becomes a mask that you wear, that you walk around on at school or in the office or wherever you are. You know, if you're the business executive or if you're a nurse in a hospital or you're just a student on campus, that's your mask, and you begin to behave the way you think others believe you're supposed to behave.
Because that's your identity.
Because that's your identity.
Right.
Instead of just being truly who you are.
Yeah.
Now you have to risk being vulnerable to have that come out. Right. And that's a scary place for a lot of people. They like to have, it's protection, right? This is who I am, everyone knows who I am, I don't need to be anybody else, I can portray this role. But that's not living, that's not life, that's not where we want to get to. If you take away all the identities that we have, okay, it could be a son, a daughter, it could be a mother, it could be a father, it could be a sister, brother, it could be a business executive, a professional athlete, a student. Just strip away whatever your identities are, because we have multiple identities.
Right.
Strip them all away.
Right.
Strip them all away. What's left is who you are.
Right. That's a little bit heady, because to me, I think that what we are isn't, and this is a different way of looking at it, not stripping it away, but it's an amalgamation of all those things. Mm-hmm. So I'm not an athlete just, I'm not a son just, I'm not a husband just, I'm not a father just, I'm all of those things.
Yes,
right?
You are.
And
right.
So it's the totality of our experience that kind of expresses our identity. And then what we, I think, have to do is think to ourselves, what kind of an athlete do I want to be? What kind of a father do I want to be? What kind of a community member I want to be? And all of those things are little, like a quilt, that patchwork of your identity. Because, you know, and maybe I'm wrong, maybe there's another way of looking at it, but that's kind of how I look at it, as like a puzzle. And there's so many little pieces of that puzzle that create our full identity, and it's not just one part. And if one of those parts happen to be taken away, you know, the whole puzzle doesn't fall apart, because there's so many other pieces still there. So as an example, you said, you know, that could be taken away. You know, if you're wanting to become a lawyer or wanting to become a doctor and you don't finish med school or you don't finish law school, does your whole life crumble because of that? It could. Right?
It 100% could,
Yeah.
if that's what you've rested everything on.
Right.
And it doesn't happen.
But if it's a piece of the puzzle and you have so many other pieces of that puzzle, then you go, well, you know, I'm not a doctor, but I'm all these other things, and I will find that career piece of the puzzle in something else.
Yeah, my point is everyone focuses on career, okay?
We do.
And that's all about doing.
Right.
what do you do in life? What do you do? That's
yeah.
the
What do you
question.
do? What do you do for a living?
What do you do for a living?
Right.
What do you do? What do you do? And it's not about who you are. Right. And who you are comes from the heart at a very deep level that people need to explore and understand that about themselves. And it's so easy to just be doing and going about your business for whatever that might be.
I understand now. I think a little bit more what you meant. So, who I am is a person who loves people and wants to help people, and that's my identity. And how I can.
How do you treat yourself?
Right.
How do you treat others?
Myself. Right.
How do you view life?
Right.
What's important to you? These kinds of things have nothing to do with your job, or if you're a student, or if you're working at a nonprofit, or whatever it might be. It has nothing to do with that. Those are the bigger questions, and these masks can distract us from those answers.
Well, we all want to project strength. So that, to the point of your mask, nobody wants to walk down the street and look like they're having a bad day if they are, because we don't. That means being vulnerable. That means showing our weaknesses, let's say. And by being afraid of showing our weaknesses, in a way, we actually make ourselves even weaker.
We're humans.
100%. That's, exactly.
Right? We're human beings, and we all make mistakes, and we all have bad days, and
none of us are perfect.
None of us are perfect, and that's all part of the human condition, and that's all part of growing and moving beyond that. And people that don't have the self-esteem may fall, may feel even more. In fact, when you see somebody that has got it all buttoned up, there's probably some deep-seated issues going on there, especially those people that continually feel like they've got to display how buttoned up they are, how much together they have it all. It's the mask to prevent people from getting in, to understand and see that I don't really have it all figured out. Okay, and here's what's going on really in my life. And that's where people need to get to. They need to get to that. But that's a level of trust, because I don't want to do that with you, because you might demean me and make me feel bad, more badly about myself, right? And so that's why people are resistant from doing that. That's what we have to do, Jack. That's how you and I have developed this relationship, a trusting relationship and a belief in one another, that we can be totally vulnerable with one another about what's going on really in our lives. And that's a real relationship, and that's where people need to get to.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that's, you nailed it. That vulnerability is something that really does require trust, but without it, we never grow.
If we put ourselves out there and we take the risks, right? And that's what you're doing. You're taking a risk to be vulnerable, to expose the real you, right? In reality, if we believe that everyone wants to know the real Jack and the real Paul, and that's okay, because some people will like it and some people won't. So what? It doesn't matter. But the fake Jack and the fake Paul may seem like there's a whole bunch of people that like us, when in reality, they're not really that way. We're never really going to have that kind of relationship.
Yeah, and the irony of that is, like, the fake Jack or the fake Paul, we'd like to do the best Instagram life thing, and I do it. I'll post a picture of myself.
Well, sure, we all do it.
Like I was at this great, and then the funny thing about that is, I think that people don't realize, the ones who do it a lot, not the ones who do it every now and then, but the ones who do it a lot, pretty soon people start kind of almost doing an eye roll. Oh yeah, they're in Hawaii this week. It's like you think you're portraying this great identity of yourself, but people kind of see through it at some point, and they much rather get to know the real you than the fake Instagram you.
Yeah, the ups and downs and everything about you.
Because we're all human.
Yeah, because and that's and it's when you do the posting, it's almost like, okay, wow, that was really good. Wow, how am I going to top that next week? I really got to come up with something good.
This next trip's going to have to be really expensive, man.
Yeah, right. Because it can't go down from there. But I get that. Everyone wants to celebrate those, and it's cool. We do it mostly with our family, right? So our family can see what we're up to, and we can see what they're up to, and so that's that communication, because we want to know where they're at and what they're doing, and but it's also the ordinary things, with our grandkids, and seeing them just do something silly, which it makes you laugh, which is the best thing in the world.
100% best thing in the world. Yep. So we all want that great Instagram life. We all want to look great. How do we allow ourselves to be vulnerable and kind of do those things that we need to do to be more real with ourselves and with the world?
We have to look inside to discover who we really are as a person. And when we do that, we take the time to do that, that's where the real joy lives in each of us.
Yeah. Most of us don't want to do that work.
We don't, but it's required to evolve to that which we're designed to be.
Yeah, it's funny because I think we even mentioned this in other conversations of becoming the best student of yourself. We're all curious. We want to learn about different things in this world. Probably the most important thing we should learn about is ourselves.
We should spend every day in that space, but that requires us to be still. And we're too busy to be still, right? But it requires us to be still. And again, that could be a place where it's pretty painful for people. So we have to sort of accept that going in, knowing that that could happen when we take the time to go inward. And maybe there's things about us we don't like, which is probably true. Right. We all have those things. But we have to deal with them and acknowledge them and then move through them. And then when we can do that, when we can move through the pain and those images of darkness in our lives, wherever that is or whatever they may be, again, that's when we're going to discover ourselves and discover joy.
Yeah. And for those who don't want to do that, what we probably don't realize is that by holding it in and not exploring that pain, it's just rotting inside of us anyways. We just maybe don't quite know it always on a conscious level, but it's there. So it's important that we look in and we do figure these things out, because if we don't, it's not like it just went away. The hardest thing to do is to face your challenges or your problems in life, but after you've done that, you always end up feeling better because you have, like, as you said, moved through.
If you don't do it and you just leave it there, it'll fester and it'll manifest in negative ways in your life. It'll just continue and continue to do so. Until you do that, until you take the time to be still and dive inward.
Yeah. Hey, Paul.
Yeah.
This is the part where we're supposed to tell people to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel.
Okay, will you please do that then? I mean, if you enjoy it, please do.
And if you don't, do it anyways, because we need your help.
We do.
Also, we have a website called GameChangeNation.com. Just go there and subscribe and you'll get tons of free content.
And what we're really trying to do is create a community of people that love sports.
Yep.
And the great lessons that we learn from sports, but we want to hear from you.
We do. So we're going to have a bunch of social media pages, from TikTok to Instagram to Twitter to Facebook. Instagram, I probably already said all of them. Please join them and tell us your stories. We'd love to hear from you. Oh, and we wrote a book.
Oh,
forgot about that.
Forgot that.
The book is called Through the Tunnel. It's available on Amazon now. If you go straight down here to this link that you can see below us, you will be able to purchase it. We'd love it if you could do it.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.